Hey everybody, it's Chuck Esposito here with Jason McCormick. We're at Sunset in our new digs once again at the Sunset Radio booth outside of Club Madrid for another betting segment. It's been a fun week. We're now into it. NBA and NHL playoffs going on. Baseball's 20 games in. It's been fun for us so far. We know the bettors are enjoying it, but it's been kind of a crazy week if you look at it, Jay.
Oh, it's nonstop. I mean, like you said kind of last week, this is March in the middle of
March
August.
In
it's
August,
been
right.
a betting frenzy, and again, we talked about the bubbles being on the East Coast, creating a lot of day games that are going on, so it's been kind of nonstop from 9 o'clock in the morning until we hit that kind of 9 o'clock hour of watching nonstop sports.
Providing there's not a late hockey game that goes into 2, 3, 4, 5 overtimes, which even is later, but that's been tremendous as well.
No, it's just been great to get up in the morning and have an NBA game on starting at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, and we're going to have that probably for about the next 2 weeks, so can continue to enjoy it.
I'll say yay, sports books. Anyway, first, guys, we're going to dive into pro basketball. The basketball playoffs are here right now. There's some really intriguing matchups. I think the one for me, it's the one out west. I mean, you think about the Lakers and Blazers, and the Lakers 3-5 when they came back haven't looked great. The Blazers are kind of an intriguing team, and they're getting some dog money, which is a little bit uncharacteristic against the Lakers. We know how they bet the Lakers to win the championship, but now people are looking at that price a little bit. The Bucks, they've had some struggles too. They look like they were just kind of going through the motions for me to get back to where they're at right now. For my money, I think, Jay, the Clippers are the team to beat. I think the Clippers are the best team in the league right now. I would make them the favorite over the Lakers or the Bucks, in my opinion. And I think there's some other good matchups as well. But right now, I think the Clippers are the team to beat in pro basketball.
I won't make an argument with you on the Clippers on the west-hand side. I think the Clippers-Lakers is going to be a fantastic matchup. And I not disrespecting the Portland Blazers, but I think that they're going to be well outmatched here by the Lakers.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just saying that's the way, but the public has liked the price.
Oh, well, they've loved the Blazers because the way they
Right.
played here in the bubble, and Damian Lillard, I think they officially named him the MVP
They did, yep.
of the bubble play.
He did.
Shooting three-pointers from the trademark on the middle of the floor, and he was fantastic. But I think that, like I said, they're going to be a little bit outmatched. Their defense intensity on that side of the basketball is going to really struggle against Anthony Davis in the middle. It won't surprise me at all to see a couple sweeps from the Lakers, from the Bucks. Again, remember, those teams in the bubble here really didn't have a whole lot of reason to play intense basketball. They were kind of walking through the park, and I think that we're going to see them flip the script as we now get into what is officially the playoffs from those big-name teams. But Clippers, they get their guys back. We might actually see that whole team on the floor at the same time.
They're scary good, I think. When they get those guys back, I think it's going to be a different team.
When you talk about potentially the Bucks, and again, not having their guys, not playing everything, Toronto is the other team that I'll throw in there on the east-hand side.
I love the Raptors. Even without Leonard this year, I mean, they didn't take really a step back. I think quietly they're a team that could be the Eastern Conference team.
What if you ask the question from these first-round matchups, what is the most intriguing first-round matchup to you, or is there a heavy underdog or favorite that you really like, or something that you're looking forward to watch in this first round series?
I think two series that are intriguing to me would be the Celtics-Sixers series, just to see how well Embiid plays without Ben Simmons. I think, and you look at the Celtics, and I wonder depth-wise how they match up. I think that one's intriguing for me.
And I don't think he's 100%.
Right.
Embiid, I don't think is 100% healthy either. I think they're really banged up. The Celtics, Jason Tatum, they're gonna. I think they're going to roll through that series.
And
I
thought Rockets Thunder going in, but with the injury to Westbrook, just not knowing how healthy he is, I think takes a little bit away from that, but still want to see those guys play. I think the interesting part is, we've talked about it in the past, when it comes to the basketball playoffs, when you had the home and home, when you had 2 games in one team's arena and then 2 games in another team's arena, you saw more of that zigzag theory, which we talked about. If a team goes down 2-0, you're going to bet that game in game 3. But in the bubble, it's going to be so much different than that. You're not going to see those same home court advantages based on what the series win-loss is. So that's going to be, I think, an adjustment for our side of the counter, but also an adjustment for the bettors now. If a team is down 2-0, to your point, do you see that sweep? Because technically, although they're the home team, they're not going back home.
think we only have one series, be it the Thunder or Rockets series, that is under $1.50 favorite. I think the rest of these series are over $4, $3 on the dog in every series. And obviously the ones that are the 1-8 matchups are much heavier than that. The one that's intriguing to me is the Pacers Heat, just because we've kind of got that Jimmy Butler,
right.
T.J. Warren kind of battle. And I know they say the issue is dead, but we'll see when they get back on the floor if that battle continues. But yeah, look out for that Pacers Heat. I think that could be a hot rivalry. And we talked about before, the scoring in the bubble so far in the NBA bubble has been outrageous. I mean, we've seen a lot of games in the 250s, 260s. Commonly the over-unders were 220s, 230s. If you look at the board right now, all of those totals are essentially gone. Most of the games are in the 215, low 220s. I think the Rockets-Thunder game is the only game that's really kind of that high total on the board. So I think that we will see a little bit more defensive intensity from all these teams as we...
Let's hope so. Right?
Yeah.
All right, from our side of the counter, we're hoping so, because it's been a lot of overplay, I would say, from most guests.
And again, we're offering a lot more on the menu than just the games itself. We started to put up player props, scoring props on a lot of the key guys and key players. So there's way more than just the game, first half, second half. So we got in-game on a lot of the games as well. So nonstop action kind of throughout the game. And then when you have in-play on the app, if you haven't clicked over onto that in-play feature on the STN mobile app, you got to do that. You'll see sports, parlay cards, race, and in-play. Click over on that in-play app. You're going to see a load of props and types of things to be able to bet on the game. Once you start messing around in that in-play, you're going to fall in love with the in-play and be looking to play on that in-play almost all the time.
I think one of the things that really stands out for me is that we saw in hockey the parity in the first round. We've always said that anytime a goalie can kind of stand on his head and steal a game or steal a series. And we saw that with the 12th-ranked Canadians in the Eastern Conference and the 12th-ranked Blackhawks in the Western Conference pull off huge upsets. Teams that were 23rd and 24th weren't even expected to be there. And we're seeing some of that in the next round for hockey, and we'll get into hockey. But in basketball, there hasn't been that same parity. That first-round matchups in the past, 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7, you just don't see those upsets. And maybe a big part of it is the home court advantage, and teams that aren't as good, the other team can go in there and win games in their gym. But I wonder in the bubble atmosphere if we're going to see more parity or not. And I think we'll be able to tell pretty quickly. But I think it's adjustments that we'll have to make from our side of the counter, and the bettors will have to look at as well. But again, in the past, it's been night and day. Such a difference in the NHL with the parity there, where any team can beat anyone. We've seen that year over year, and you haven't seen that over the last several years in the NBA.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see it this next week and a half. I think that these teams, there's some mismatches there. These teams don't match up, and that's why they are 1 seeds, and that's why the other teams are 8 seeds and 3s and 6s. And I think that we're going to see, like I said, I think we'll see several sweeps in these first rounds. Probably if we had to put a prop up, I call it 3, over under 3 sweeps that'll happen. But I think as we move along, we're going to see some fantastic basketball.
Yeah, I agree. I think, again, once you get into that, potentially Bucks, Raptors, Lakers, Clippers, it's going to be really, really good.
And from our side of the counter, one of the things that scares me when you talk about mismatches is that's where you have the sweeps go on, and the betting public does really, really well, because you start to get to that, hey, 2 games to nothing, 3 games to nothing, and that other team tends to have a little bit of quit in them, and the series is over and done with. And, I don't know if I'm super excited about staying in that bubble all too long if I'm some of those players on those 8 and 7 seeds that, they know they're going into a monster team that they potentially don't match up with real well.
I'm excited, though. I mean, it's great to have the basketball playoffs start now. It was fun to have those kind of play-in games and get everybody back again. But now that these teams are getting healthy and we see the matchups, I think it's going to be fun. So NBA playoffs are starting right now, as Jason mentioned. It's not just the games themselves, a ton of different props and in-play and really cool stuff. So this is a great time to kind of mention, sign up for the STN mobile app. We talk about it all the time. You can come in a matter of minutes. We'll get you guys signed up. We've got that bonus going on right now for new guests. And it's such a great tool with games starting at 9 a.m. and going to late in the evening and the in-play aspect. Come on in, get signed up. It's STN Mobile. We love when you guys come in. We understand that there's social distancing protocols that we're looking at now, and every other seat and every other window and queue lines. But even if you're sitting in the book and you don't want to have to wait in those lines, having the STN mobile app is so cool.
I was thinking, as my kids are getting ready for school, there's a lot of educators and moms and dads and grandma and grandpas that are going to be starting to do a lot of distance learning and homeschooling. What a better time for them to get the app, and while you're setting up that lunch break or that recess, hop on the STN app and be able to catch these day games as you're doing some homeschooling or helping your son or daughter with their distance learning.
I love it. It's education, right? So now, we've talked a little bit about pro basketball, but we're going to talk about hockey now. And, I think it's so dear to us. I mean, both being from Chicago and being Hawks fans, and then being out here now and having, Vegas-born, the Vegas Golden Knights. But as I touched on, there is so much parity in that league. It is crazy. I think you look at the only series that's 3-0 is Islanders,
which is a giant surprise.
But it's Barry. But it's look at Barry Trotz against his team, against the team that he won the cup and beat Vegas, the Capitals. He's got that team up 3-0. I love the series with Columbus and Tampa. After last year when Tampa got swept by Columbus, they're playing each other. Out west, there's great matchups. And I think you look at Vegas and Chicago. Although from a fan's perspective out here, God, it's so exciting having the Knights in it. You draw so many more people into the book. We've got a page or two of props up for every game, which is so cool. But the betting public loves to ride the Knights, ride the over, ride the puck line, and from our side of the counter, we find ourselves rooting against that just about every single night.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we haven't been doing very well. Obviously, they're 7-1 now in the bubble, or 6-1.
It was their first loss last night, actually, and the first time they really trailed in, for that long of a period since they've been in the bubble.
It was a dominant game for them, as much as they didn't come out on the right side of it. Corey Crawford was outstanding for the Blackhawks, and we'll get to see
turn back the clock a little bit.
Tuesday night. We'll get to see if the Knights can close out the Hawks and move on to the rest of the series. But yeah, Vancouver has been a battle with the Blues. That was a great game last night. But it's really cool to see the competitiveness again. Talking about being in a bubble, the NHL, these games are awesome. I mean, if you're not a hockey fan, it's time to become a hockey fan and start watching hockey on NBC Sports and NBC, because these games are awesome. You're seeing the superstars come out to play, and as this continues to go on, I think it's just going to get better and better. Again, to your point, lots of options.
Yeah.
So we've been putting up a ton of props, especially on the night games. For guys to score goals, who's going to score first, and again, the in-play options on the app are absolutely extensive from a hockey standpoint.
Yeah, I think just touching on that Hawks Knights again, you can make a case that I think the Knights were really dominant in game 1 and 4, but the Hawks played better in game 2 and 3, and they lost those games. If Strom's puck that hits the crossbar in overtime kind of has that weird trajectory where it goes straight down instead of in, the series could be 2-2, although the Knights have played better. I think it's been a good test for a young Hawks team, but the Knights just roll out those 4 lines. They're so dominant. I think the interesting thing for me is who's going to be between the pipes tomorrow night. Is it going to be Robin Lehner, who lost the first time? It wasn't only the first time that Vegas had lost since they've been in the bubble. It's the first time that Lehner had lost since he became a Knight. Or will they go back to Fleury? I think that's going to be a kind of a key thing for me. We know that the Hawks are going to go with Crawford again. And if for some reason the Hawks steal another game and that series is 3-2, there is such a tremendous amount of pressure, I think, that switches to Vegas then being up only 3-2. And what do you do in between the pipes at that point?
Well, the only other thing to look at is if they do close it out on Tuesday night, they're potentially going to be sitting around up in Edmonton for quite some time, because all these other series are 2-1.
Or 2-2,
from a game standpoint. So they could be sitting around for a couple days, or if not several days, if they close this series out on Tuesday night. And yeah, it's a great dilemma to have.
Right.
Who you're going to put in net when you got these two guys? They've both been fantastic. Again, I don't think that either of those goals were potentially soft. Kind of an angle, then off his helmet and then into the net.
He tried to head it.
They've been
it was great.
They've both been fantastic, and like I said, I don't think you can go wrong either way. Like I said, the Hawks are going to live and die with Crawford, who's been really up and down. But last night, not only was he great, but it was the defensive support out in front of him.
They blocked a lot of shots last night. It's funny, but both Crawford and Lehner are free agents when the year ends. It's not too far-fetched to see Crawford on the other side of the ice next year for the Blackhawks. I mean, they could re-sign him again if the Knights are unable to. There'll be a lot of teams, I think, that'll be interested in him. But as you mentioned, there's just so many different options, guys. And as we touched on again, I'm going to hammer it home again. STN Mobile, you can bet day or night. So come on in. Don't forget, there's so many things going on in all sports right now, but it's really exciting with both the basketball and hockey playoffs going on. You've got early start times, you've got late games, you've got overtimes going on in hockey, and it really has become, March and August with all these different times. But the league that's going.
Speaking of times, though, jump into, because I've gotten a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks on the times that the app is actually open. We actually open the app at 6 o'clock in the morning, and the app shuts down at 11 o'clock at night. So you just got that kind of short 7-hour window that we're closed, and the books aren't in those same hours of operation. But 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock at night, the app's open. And as we move closer to football season, probably that first week of September, that app's going to extend out to being open till 2 o'clock in the morning. So from 6 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock in the morning, once we get into our football schedule. So it's just down for those four short hours. You'll be able to get down at your leisure at all times of night.
And you touched on the books open a little bit later than that, but usually the close time is pretty close in the book as well at around 11 o'clock. So give you guys a lot of options as far as that goes. But now we're going to kind of touch on the league that's going on right now. They're 20 games in. We're not seeing that parity. We know in baseball usually it's that marathon, not the sprint. This year it's that sprint to 60 games. Teams are starting to play better right now. But the one thing that really stands out to me is the streakiness what's going on right now. The good teams are good, the bad teams are bad, and they are just betting against these teams every single night. The teams that aren't playing good right now, and the teams that are, they are riding that. And I think we talked about it over the weekend about the amount of sweeps that you saw in Major League Baseball over the course of this weekend. And traditionally, it's been the sport that we haven't done well as other sports. It's kind of our lowest hold percentage usually. You're just picking winners, and the bettors have done really well again with riding the streaks, both wins and losses.
Yeah, I mean, as the season opened, some of those big name pitchers losing their games and that type of stuff, the book was doing well. But as the last week and a half has kind of turned, you talk about those streaks that have been happening. Baseball has not been good on our side of the counter. The bettors have been doing well, and it's given them more bullets to be able to fire on baseball and hockey and basketball and keep them going. But specifically, it's when you have kind of the ugly matchups of good team versus bad team, when we talk about kind of like a Dodgers versus Angels, a Yankees versus Red Sox, Astros versus Mariners. Those were all 3-game sweeps over the weekend. There were several more. Phillies swept the Mets. Diamondbacks swept the Padres, which was a surprise. That was actually good for us on our side of the counter. The Brewers
big
actually
comeback by the Diamondbacks yesterday, which
Brewers
really
took
helped
3 or 4 from the Cubs. So those sweeps are out there. The Indians is one of the bigger ones. They swept the Tigers, and they've won 20 straight games now against the Tigers. And earlier this season, the Mariners were able to stop a run of, I think it was 17 straight times that the Astros have beaten the Mariners. So as you start to see some of those good teams match up against the bad teams, and these streaks start to go on, it starts to get scary from our side of the counter when you've got all these matchups at the same time over a particular weekend. If you just do your Dodgers, Astros, Yankees parlay,
and they don't care what the price is.
Yeah, and put them on the run line. Those things start to pay off. So that's starting to get a little bit of scary. But it's really matchup driven. Now as you move to this week, you're going to get some different matchups with some of the bad teams playing bad teams and good teams playing good teams. But again, when those Dodgers cover on the run line or the Astros are covering on run line, it gets particularly scary. Right.
And we've been lucky that there has been some surprises. I mean, the fact that both the Orioles and Marlins are above 500 right now has really helped. And I think when you look at the flip side of it, the Reds were kind of that vogue team that everybody bet before the season started. There was the biggest drop, biggest amount of liability as far as future. I mean, they're just 9-11, so they've really struggled out of the gate. The Angels have struggled out of the gate. The Phillies, all teams that were backed a little bit and the public liked. So that's kind of helped a little bit. That maybe there's a little bit of parity there, but you're right. I mean, these streaky teams right now and these kind of ugly matchups, as you alluded to, we know who we're going to need before they even throw the first pitch for throughout the day on those types of games.
Yeah, and it's going to get even more interesting as we move forward in the next couple of weeks when we start to talk about these teams that are missing games, in particular the Cardinals, and then this weekend the Pirates and Reds missed a couple games. But the Cardinals are the key one that have a lot of games that they have to make up. They're going to be playing a lot of doubleheaders, and that's going to really tax that pitching staff. So you're going to start to see, the Cardinals with their starters, and then you're going to start to see Cardinals with pitchers that you don't even recognize the name. These are guys that wouldn't have been up in the majors this year, only because the fact that they're playing doubleheaders of these guys getting a start. And you saw it yesterday with the White Sox able to pound out 4 back-to-back homers against the Cardinal rookie pitcher.
Right.
So they're going to have some good games that they're going to have to score a lot of runs if they're going to try and stay in this thing with some of the pitchers that they're going to have to bring up. And again, it's going to be interesting as well for the other teams, be it the Marlins, now the Pirates and the Reds, to see what they do to recover from having to play these doubleheaders.
I think with all the doubleheaders, one of the questions that I've heard from a lot of guests, and I think you have as well, is, how do the house rules apply to 7-inning games? We actually address that in our house rules. Totals and run lines are the same. They're based on 7 innings. Games still have to go 6.5 or 7 innings based on who's winning the game. But that is addressed in our house rules, and a lot of guests were asking, are you still going to have totals and run lines on those games? So I think it's great that we kind of had it spelled out and we're able to educate our guests, because it's so unusual to see a 7-inning doubleheader.
I think it's great. I mean,
I love it too, right?
Watching that 9-inning game.
I love doubleheaders just in general, and baseball had kind of gotten away from those. I love it when there's a doubleheader, though.
Yeah, we're trying to put a little bit of notice on it on the sheets and on the boards, that this is a 7-inning game, but you're seeing those smaller totals. I think one of the other big questions in baseball going into this year was the argument about listed pitchers.
Right, yep.
We saw kind of some of the other books, some of our competitive books that have dropped the ability for you to list your pitchers. So we started to get that question a lot, and we were big proponents of keeping the listed pitchers. Again, I think it's the fundamental way to bet baseball is to list your pitchers, and obviously what I'm talking about.
It's such a big part of the line, though. I mean, when
Sure.
you think about baseball, that's the one guy, that impacts that line. That line is based on who the starting pitcher is.
Yeah, and I've heard the argument, the line is based on, Tom Brady and Drew Brees being your starting quarterback. The line in basketball is based on LeBron James starting that game. But you get injury statuses on those guys. You know that if Brees is going to be playing on Sunday, there's 16 games. Tom Brees or Drew Brees just doesn't drop out of the lineup an hour before game time. Where in baseball, that happens quite often. A guy is doing his warm up and doesn't make a start or something like that. What I'm talking about is, again, for most of you guys that are betting baseball, the difference between listed pitchers and action is you have the ability when you're making your bet to actually choose that you want this game to be action. You don't really care who's pitching. That's going to give you the money line, the ability, if there's a pitching change, to be able to just make your bet. Totals and run lines are automatically listed pitchers, so you don't have a choice. The total and the run line on the game, those pitchers have to start. And then there's the ability to list your pitchers. So when you have a guy like Cole going for the Yankees, you can list the Red Sox versus Cole, and then if Cole doesn't start that game, you're going to get a refund. You're not going to get an adjusted price on some pitcher that you didn't want because the reason that you were betting that game was because of Garrett Cole. So again, it's not really a protection for us. The listed pitchers option is really a protection
and
for the betting public.
They prefer that in many cases, though.
Yeah.
But
So we're still offering, and I think again, like I said, it's a fundamental part of baseball. We're proud to still be offering listed pitchers, and if you want to bet listed pitchers, come on over to our books and bet on our app, as we're giving you that option.
Right, and you guys, feel free to ask any of us. I mean, it's been one of the questions, as you mentioned, about the listed pitchers, about the 7-inning doubleheaders. We've got our house rules readily available for any guests if they want to take a look at it. We can kind of walk you through that. We're happy to answer any of those questions. So, we've talked about kind of those 3 sports, and today's the day that pro football teams get padded practice. I know that, we'd be going on with exhibition football right now, and in many cases, the handle on some of those games dwarfs what goes on in baseball. But no exhibition football, but they're at practice. You're getting a lot more reports out on guys that are looking good, even some injuries, things that we have to stay on top of. So don't forget that kickoff isn't that far away. I mean, September 10th, you've got the Texans and Chiefs on Thursday Night Football. It's not that far away, gang, so it's always fun to talk football. We'll be adding some things as we get a little bit closer, but padded practices. So
I think that
we're going to have 4 sports going on then.
What everybody's preparing for now is their fantasy football drafts.
Right.
They're going to be betting NFL football here in a couple of weeks, but they're getting ready to do their fantasy football drafts and hopefully some modified rules in their drafts.
When's ours, by the way?
But good luck in your fantasy football drafts, and I think that there's going to be a lot of sleepers out there and some different things to look at. It's obviously a lot of players changing hands, and quarterbacks being the key. We'll see how those drafts go.
Yeah, I think with all the quarterbacks, we kind of touched on it. The big thing for me, though, again, is when Seattle's at home or the Saints are at home or the Packers, what an impact it was to those teams playing in their home stadiums with their home crowds, and that's not going to be the case. So it is going to be a little bit different. I think, like everything, is that although it's an adjustment for the bettors and things for them to look at as well, it's also an adjustment for us that we're looking at everything and adjusting on a weekly basis. We try to stay on top of it. We know the bettors have a lot of this information as well in the guests, but it's definitely different for us as well.
One of the other things, obviously, I'm keeping on top of it is a major chore, and that's why we've got so many guys, working in the hub. And a shout out to those guys for the great job that they've been doing during this time frame with all these sports going on and major changes. The one thing I did want to throw out there is I think we could kind of put a lead out there about last man standing.
Right, absolutely.
Our college football and pro football contest last man standing, we've made a decision not to do the college football last man standing, obviously, with where college football is sitting today and the unsureness of which conferences are actually going to play and how many games we're going to see. But we are going to move forward with the pro football last man standing, and those sign-ups will be available by the end of this week. Excited to continue to offer it. Buy 4 entries, get a 5th entry free. The entries are only $25 a piece. All the prize money that we collect is going to be paid out to the winner. Again, look out for that going on, and get ready for last man standing. I know that's been an outstanding contest that everybody's loved to play, and we are bringing it back. We are definitely going to do it for pro football. Like I said, those sign-ups will be already at the end of the week.
Yep, definitely. I think our signature contests are the last man standing, and as I kind of joked about with Jay, but we'll have 4 sports going on next month, which is really,
five. We're gonna have some college football.
Right, it's just crazy. I mean, September is going to be so much different for us, and I think the guests on the other side of the counter as well. Again, I can't stress you guys, the STN mobile app is so great. One last thing I want to touch on is the horse side of the room as well. You think about what we offer every Saturday this month. $10,000 Twin Q for our race guests. And some of those Saturdays, we've had 2 winners or 4 winners. So for a $2 investment, you really have an opportunity to cash a big ticket. It's one of the things that our race guests love. It's really a kind of a cool thing, and I think it's really popular with our bettors. But again, $10,000 Twin Qs every Saturday in August, gang.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you're going to close out August and have September 5th with something we've never had before, and that's the Kentucky Derby in September. So we've actually
Labor Day weekend.
We've actually got the Kentucky Derby up on your sports side of the app. If you click on horse racing at the bottom of the sports side of the app, you're actually going to see odds to win the Kentucky Derby. Tis the Law is minus $1.20, less than even money after his great performance a week and a half ago. But
when he blew out Uncle Chuck, right?
Yeah,
I wanted to have a couple of bucks on my
Chuck.
Uncle Chuck, but unfortunately, no.
Art
dice.
Collector. I know Bert likes 1,000 Words. Honor AP. There's going to be some other horses that are going to, obviously I'll try and go out there and beat him. Probably should be a full field, but it'll be a little bit interesting with that going on in September. We're going to have a free hat giveaway for Kentucky Derby on that Saturday, September 5th.
They're super cool, though. We'll be able to show these, I think, in the next week or so. We'll show them on one of these broadcasts, you guys, to give you an idea. Different caps from different properties, so kind of different colors, which are super cool. You may want to collect them all, but it's really a cool thing.
Yep. And again, that's on the horse side of the app. So if you don't have the horse side of the app, again, you can bet the Kentucky Derby on the sports side of the app. Like I said, it's at the bottom. Last sport on there is horse racing. But on the race side of the app, if you don't already have the race side of the app, make sure get yourself into one of the race books and sign up for the race side of the app. Then you'll have everything ready to go and be able to bet racing every day alongside the sports that we have going on.
Yep, absolutely. It's so much fun, guys, to be back and be talking about all these sports going on and all the different things after being gone for a while. We love our new digs here in Club Madrid with the radio booth here. It's kind of a cool setup. We love when you guys come out and enjoy everything we have to offer. So come on out, enjoy the books, get signed up for STN Mobile. As Jay said, it's a lot of fun. There's so many things going on. We even have the Indianapolis 500 that's going to be next weekend. So there's always something now. It's just so different, August and September, than what we've seen in the past. But it's an exciting time for us. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in. We'll be back next week talking about where we're at through the first week of the NBA playoffs and what has changed in the NHL playoffs as well. But come on in. We hope to see you guys soon. Thanks.